3 losses, lots of blame to go around. On today's show, we'll decide where that blame should go.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Network. I've been covering Boston College sports for the last 10 years. If you're looking for news, analysis, and details on your Boston College Eagles, this is the place to be. Locked On Boston College is a free daily Boston College podcast available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Now, we need to continue our autopsy of the BC loss to Cal. 3 in a row. We're going to look at where BC goes from here, what went wrong, who's to blame for this loss. We got a lot to dive into, and you've heard me tell my part about this. Let's get Mitch Wolfe of Eagle Insider here. Mitch, how's it going?
Could be better. Would like to be talking about a team that had a much better record, but this is a pretty rough football team for a lot of reasons, and we'll talk about a lot of them. We've got a lot to talk about, so let's get into it.
All right, 3 straight losses. BC's found ways to lose every single one of these FBS games. Let's talk about Saturday's loss in particular. You watched the film. You've watched it a few times. What have you seen? If you were to say what the biggest issue is, what would that be?
The thing that I'm really focusing on is how this defensive line is probably the worst, might be the worst in the ACC. It's certainly in the bottom tier of the Power 5, and that shows up in both the run game and the pass game because they are getting pushed off the ball pretty consistently, which affects how well the linebackers are able to play. They can't get to their gaps cleanly. They're getting blocked off the ball, and that's causing problems. That's causing those missed tackles on the second level. That's part of it. The problem is that this team is not able to get pressure on the quarterback with 4. They have to blitz, and we knew that going in. But even when they aren't blitzing, they're just not able to get pressure. When they do blitz, their pressure rate is – I'm going to need a second to pull this up. When they blitz, their pressure rate is it's 40.4%, which is very good. That's great. When they don't blitz, it falls to 22.7% of opponents' dropbacks. The first number is 76 in the FBS. The second number is 115th. So the players are not able to win their one-on-one matchups to get pressure on the quarterback. They have to blitz, which puts the defensive backs in tougher positions because they're one-on-one, they're left on islands, and if they make any kind of mistake, they're going to get burned. And to Cal's credit, their receivers made a lot of tough catches. BC's defenders committed a lot of pass interferences, and BC's at the end of the game was basically playing 3 true freshmen at the 3 cornerback positions. So that's hard to win with. If you look at any team, if any team is playing all true freshmen at cornerback, they're probably struggling in the secondary. You could do it at Ohio State, Texas, Georgia, what have you. It's going to be a little rough. So, but you can't. I don't put a ton of blame on those players because they're being put in a tough position because of injuries, which is just bad luck. That's not really anybody's fault. And then the defensive scheme, which, again, BC kind of has to do, makes life harder on them. And we talked about this last week in that they have to play more man coverage because they don't want to risk explosive plays where nobody's around them by being in zone or using zone blitzes. So it's a darned if you do, darned if you don't situation. And they're getting darned both ways, if I'm being honest. So that's one big issue for me on the defensive line. And then that kind of, you see how that affects the entire rest of the defense. The other things we've talked about, missed tackles, penalties, they are not getting better. Actually, I take that back. Technically, the missed tackles were better in this game. There were only 8 of them. The percentage was like 10 or 10.7%, which is lower than last 2 games. But you still saw it have a major effect on the game where anytime there was a missed tackle, it was leading to a big play for Cal. And then on offense, I mean, I think you look at this game and by itself, it's pretty clear that, Dylan Lonergan regressed in this game, made some really bad mistakes, even had some plays where it wasn't intercepted, but it could have been and could have made this game worse. That being said, he still put this team in a position to win multiple times. He led the 2-minute drive at the end of the first half to get them a field goal. That is huge for stemming Cal's momentum because if they don't do that, Cal basically took a touchdown to halftime and then assuming they get the ball back with more time, if he doesn't lead a touchdown drive, they could have scored again and then scored again out of halftime. So that was big for them. And again, he threw the interception. But on that drive, BC's facing fourth and 8 on their own side of the field. At that point, the game is like over. But he makes a big throw to Lewis Bond, gets them down to the 5, throws a touchdown to Reed Harris, but Reed Harris can't complete the catch, doesn't survive the ground, and that becomes a drop. But that was a great play, great pass. That should have been the game winner, but it wasn't. So I get it. It was a bad game for him. For some really, but still, like, you look at most of the game where he was able to move the ball, he was playing pretty well. The other thing which we've been talking about is that Will Lawing is back on the wagon when it comes to his addiction to mesh. It's a real issue. Need to have another intervention for him because they are calling mesh all the time. It is basically every third down, especially like third and medium. It's every time, and defenses know it's coming. And to BC's credit, they're still able to get a lot of first downs from it, which is kind of crazy. But you can tell teams are keying on it. And the last interception of the game was on a mesh concept, I believe. You had basically him trying to throw the little hook route that's over the ball. I think that was the one that was intercepted. And I think teams are just keying in on what Lawing wants. Because I feel like if you watch this game, and in his defense, if you watch any team over the course of a season, you're going to see them come back to certain plays and certain concepts. They're going to lean on certain things. Every team does it. But he is not expanding outside of it, and he's not building enough counters or wrinkles off of it to, if the defense overly aggressively pursues what they think is mesh, there isn't something to go off of it that they have hit or is working. So, we kind of had this issue last year, and Lawing did kind of figure it out towards the end of the season. But now, with what I would say are better tools, with a better pass protecting offensive line, a better quarterback, a pretty solid all-around receiving group, they're not really doing a lot, and that's causing problems, and that's partially leading to some of these interceptions.
Yeah, you mentioned that wheel route, and I've said on the show, like, you said the defense are watching for it, and up in the booth you can watch, and it was very clear when they would run it. They had the linebacker kind of shade away a little bit, just enough so that Lonergan thought he was open. And number 0, I forget his name.
That's Cade Uluave.
Yeah, he would just fly. He would just have that spot.
The last one I think was Harrison Taggart, not the interception. The one where it was a third down where they ran mesh, and I think Turbo got tackled, or it was like a broken up pass. But they show blitz, and they do that thing where they put both of the linebackers in the A gap. So BC kind of has, okay, somebody's coming. We have to plan for both of them. And then Taggart bluffs like he's going to blitz. I think he's number 7. He bluffs like he's going to blitz, then drops out. So he's kind of late getting over to Turbo, but Lonergan sees it as open. And then he throws it, but then Taggart is basically right there. And this is something we talked about with Lonergan as well the other week, where his post-snap processing is a bit of a problem, because he is seeing what the defense is showing him, and then he's not able to change what he's supposed to do if they change the picture after the snap. And some of that's experience. You just kind of got to get to know football, play more snaps, and you hopefully get better at it. And some of it is, I think he's just a little robotic within the system. Like, you see, like, there was a play where I think it was like a 3rd and 3 where they threw that fade route to Lewis Bond down the right sideline. Mm-hmm. And in theory, I don't hate it, but on 3rd and 3, you can, like, let's keep it short. Like, I know you want to attack that matchup. Like, Lewis Bond is your most reliable receiver, but I feel like he has Jeremiah Franklin open on the stick route. It's like, and then again, this whole thing about splitting the sides of the field for getting your numbers, he's always throwing the numbers. It's like, hey, just kind of rely on your guys. Don't just do what the system is telling you. Like, kind of play with a little more feel, as opposed to like just not going through the motion, but just doing what you're supposed to do. Like, I think some of this comes to experience, but I think that's something that he needs to develop in and get better at. So
this goes back to a question that a lot of folks have had. Like, you need to keep him out there. Like, you cannot just throw Grayson James back out there, because he needs those live reps.
Yeah, and again, like, this is not him being a catastrophic failure of running the offense. Like, if you think about what got Thomas Castellanos benched last year, where that Syracuse game he was just unable to execute the offense at all. This is a completely different situation where he is still able to keep the offense moving. He's hitting some struggles, and they needed help him with better play calling. And I think having the run game of a big game is huge, but this is a problem that they need to help him with by expanding the playbook, getting some more concepts in there that can attack the defense and not allow the defense to play so aggressively and play so fast, because they basically know it's coming every play.
Do you think they should have ran the ball more?
Yeah, I think Long's a little pass happy. Especially just how well they were running the ball. I think in certain situations, it's like, oh, like just keep running it like you're hot. It's like, especially like in the last possession where they're down inside the 10.
Right.
I think running there's a little risky just because with you only have one timeout and you want to save that for, the last you want to make sure you have that at the worst possible moment. If you use that too early, then you have to spike it, then you waste a play. So that I'm not as upset about, but I think in other situations earlier in the game, they definitely could have lead on the running the ball more. And I think some of it was they tried to with Jordan McDonald. He just wasn't really effective in this game.
Yep.
So it was really all turbo all the time. And, at some point he's going to get tired. Like running backs get tired if you give them the ball. He had at least 20 touches in this game because of reception. So like once you give a guy 20 touches, he's going to start running out of gas a little. So,
Okay.
you got to get the ball, maybe try to get the ball in other guys' hands a little bit as running backs. So that's something but I do agree in general, they should have leaned on the run game more. Yes.
All right. In a moment, Mitch and I are going to look at the last 3 losses and kind of discuss what the biggest overarching issues, because there's been different issues every single time, but they all kind of have a theme. We'll talk about what those look like in just a moment. One of the tools that helps make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly OpenPhone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customers' communications. It works right through an app or on your phone or computer, so no more carrying 2 phones or relying on a landline. I love their built-in AI agent. It's a game changer. It can answer after-hours calls, capture leads, and keep business moving even when you're off the clock. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly OpenPhone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's QUO.com/lockedoncollege. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no additional cost. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Locked On Boston College, AJ Black here again. Thank you all who have made Locked On Boston College your first listen every single day. And if you have not done so, hit that like and subscribe button to make sure you get all our latest podcasts and all our latest episodes. All right, Mitch, 3 losses in a row. And as people have been saying to me, like, it's like BC, and Bill said it himself, like they're finding ways to lose. What are some of the bigger overarching themes over these 3 games? You've talked about the defensive line, so I think you kind of already hit on that. But what are some of the other things you've noticed?
I mean, the missed tackles and penalties too. This was a disaster class of penalties, and it's everything within this game. It was procedural penalties before the snap with, false start, legal formation, what have you.
Yep.
You've got, dumb face mask penalties. You've got pass interference on both sides of the ball. You've got holding. You've got everything. Like, it's not like you think about that Florida State game a few years ago where it was just a ton of pre-snap penalties. There were other ones too, but that was the big one. And they kind of got that fixed eventually. But this game, it's everything. And for what it's worth, like that offensive pass interference on Reed Harris was a complete jobbing, and Bill O'Brien let the officials have it, and rightly so, because that was a terrible call. I don't understand it. It was the defender pressed Reed Harris line of scrimmage, another one ran into him, and it's inside the 5 yards. I don't know what you want him to do. So that was really stupid. But most of the defensive pass interference penalties called on BC, I felt were pretty fair. And it was tough because, a guy like Isaiah Ferris would make a good play on a ball, and then the next play he would commit pass interference and it would be a big first down. It's like, I can't really, give you credit for this great play if you're going to make a just as equally bad one on the next one. Cam Martinez get called for it twice, I think. So that's a problem. And I talked about the secondary already. That's a thing. That's a big part of this. I think the turnovers are obviously a big part of it. The turnovers in this game, you have the one that seals the game at the end, which is in the red zone. So you take points off the board there. You have a turnover inside deep in your own territory that essentially is a pick six, just because Cal, I think, scored on the next play, if not 2 plays after. And that's after BC's defense got a big stop on 4th down. And for all the problems this BC defense has had, and, I still think the defensive line is bad, they stepped up multiple times in this game and made big stops in, very short yardage situations, which is tough to do. Even on that one drive where Cal didn't end up scoring, they got them to 4th and goal. And it's very hard to prevent an offense from getting 1-2 yards. That's what offenses do, on a regular basis. So I give them credit for blowing up at times, but with a team that is this banged up in the secondary and generally just is lacking talent, the levee's going to break eventually, especially against relatively light competition. You can say like Stanford was the worst team. Cal is probably about equal. Michigan State probably about equal. And, for all the consternation about this, in these 3 losses, the combined margin was 15 points, 16 points.
Mhm.
2 of them, one went to overtime. One, BC had a chance to win it basically on the goal line at the end of the game. These are close losses. That means that there's a few plays here and there that if you change the outcome, if you change that little thing, it changes the whole game entirely. Talked about Reed Harris's drop at the end zone. There was the Owen McGowan dropped interception, which would have been a very tough play for him to make, for what it's worth. I would have been like, wow, that's an amazing play. That was huge. But he didn't make it. I wouldn't expect him to. It's a very tough play for a defender to make. And then you look at the Stanford game. Weird, random bouncing balls, turnovers, like bad snaps, weird things. Again, I think the turbo thing is the goal line fumble thing is pretty much random. It's a fluky thing. I know it happened twice in consecutive games, so it feels like a trend. Right. I really don't think it is. It's just bad luck. And I think when you look at this team, like they just don't have the talent to overcome these margins, these very slim margins of error. And, for what it's worth, like the defensive backfield is now pretty young based on the guys they're having to play. So I think that's a big part of it. And, there's a lot of talk about coaching, but especially just Bill O'Brien specifically. And I think obviously he's the head coach. The buck stops with him. He owns a certain amount of responsibility.
Right.
At the end of the day, there's 22 players in the field on every play. And I feel like on every play, they have a bigger impact on the game than whatever Bill O'Brien has done in the game and in the week leading up to it. Those players, what happens on the field matters more than what the coaches do. That's just that's my opinion. I feel like that just makes more sense to me, where it's like these guys who are actually playing the game have more of an role in the outcome. And you can think about, okay, we're going to teach our guys, don't false start. And we go over in practice and they don't false start. And then they do it in games like, hey, we're coaching you to not do that. And it's, it's like, oh, if you're not coaching it, you're allowing it. It's like, they're not coaching them to do false starts. Like, people they're college students. They make mistakes. They're not professional. They're quote unquote professionals now, but you get the point. Like this stuff, it's just like, you can coach things, but once you get into heat of battle on game day, things go wrong, things break. So, guys will make mistakes. They lose focus, they lose discipline, and you can try as much as you want to drill it into them in practice. And sometimes in the game day, it just doesn't happen. And for what it's worth, I feel like Bill O'Brien has been pretty upfront about taking responsibility for these issues. I don't think he's shifting blame I don't think he's throwing his players under the bus. I don't think he's throwing the other coaches under the bus. He's saying, I'm not coaching good enough because we are making mistakes. And I feel like he's taking responsibility in what he said to the media. Like, I need to coach this team better. And they're making the mistakes, but I need to do more to prevent them. And I don't really know what else you can want from him, because I feel like he is taking responsibility for these problems.
Right. And it's the random nature of just football, right? Like you mentioned turbo, right? So he said in one of his press conferences, Bill said, this has not been an issue for him. I can tell you, I've been to 20 plus practices. I've watched a ton of BC. You guys think it's like, oh, it's fun, but after a while it gets a little monotonous. But I can tell you, I never saw Turbo put the ball on the ground ever this summer. And it happened twice in 2 games. Sometimes stuff happens. Some things like,
it's also not like he's like LaShawn McCoy out there holding the ball like a loaf of bread. Like he's got it high and tight. Like the fourth down, like he's trying to breach it. Like, and I'm not going to get too mad about it. Like you're trying to make.
He wasn't going to make it in anyways.
Yeah,
like,
probably.
That's the tough part. Like I don't think he was in.
And then the Michigan State one, like I think the defender just made a really great play. Like I don't think he was really reaching stupidly for that one. Like I just think that's just kind of the fluky nature of football. Like it's you have 22 people sprinting around at each other. Like there's like things are going to break and things are going to go wrong, So I think O'Brien is saying the right things, what he has to. And I think it's just not breaking BC's way this year. I'm not saying that excuses it. I'm just saying that I don't see the point in getting super bent out of shape about what's going wrong. It's like, yeah, this is a bad season. It's going wrong for BC. And I feel like they're trying their best to get it fixed. And unfortunately, it's just not working. And maybe they'll get it fixed in the coming weeks. They've got some tougher opponents, so it'll be harder. But hey, maybe they can turn around, but I'm not going to say they're going to until they prove it to me that they are, until the results on the field actually say that they're doing something.
And yeah, and we can rip him for, this, that, and the other thing, but look at run blocking. You guys have said so I see the messages
listen,
all I've
been told is that if this team rushes for more yards a carry and rushes for 100 yards a game, they'll win. So what happened?
Right.
It's almost like that teams rush for more yards when they're winning already, so that their rush yards go up at the end of games when they're trying to milk the clock.
Or that Matt Applebaum can't develop people, and then you have Robert Smith, of true freshman, out there who looked fine.
The only lineman who didn't commit a penalty.
Yeah. So you can't have it every way. I get your frustrations. I get it. Listen, you guys have every right to be frustrated. I'm just, being around it, seeing it. This is what we see. And yeah, it's frustrating. It stinks. But at the end of the day, they're trying. They are not. This is not
I don't think again, these are 3 close games. That Stanford game, I still will say those 3 plays, the 3 turnovers completely changed the game. Otherwise, you're looking at 2 very close losses. One was in double overtime. And if you want to blame O'Brien for not going for 2 after the first overtime, where they scored their touchdown, I completely agree with you, and he agrees with you too. He said it was wrong. But these are very close games. It's there's BC's getting dog walked. They're doing this. They're losing by single digits. They're losing by less than a touchdown. They're not getting dominated. Things are not breaking their way. Sometimes it doesn't happen. Again, it is frustrating. It sucks. You want it to be better, but this is the nature of football. Sometimes things don't go your way, and you get bad bounces of the ball. BC was very lucky. For example, BC was very lucky last year with their fumble luck. I think they fumbled 21 times and only lost 9. I think I'll pull it up so I can get the actual number, but that is a super lucky number. If you look at the other teams that had similar fumbles, they lost more than half their fumbles. So it's just not breaking their way this year. And that's unfortunate, but I don't think there's any evidence to say they've quit or they're not trying, or that, it's just not going well.
All right. Mitch and I are going to get into what's next. We'll talk about that in just a moment. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits you, unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. For NFL games, hey, it's Monday while I'm recording this. There's 2 games going on. You can do the over-unders. You can do the spreads. You can do prop bets. You can do anything. You can make multi-parlays if you want to. It's all available on FanDuel, and if you've never tried it before, it's super easy, and I love it. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Welcome back. This is Locked On Boston College. I'm your host, AJ Black, and I want to shout out all my everydayers out there that listen to Locked On Boston College every single day. It's not been an easy 3 weeks, but I'm glad that you guys have made us your first listen and have been checking us out. Now, sitting at 1-3, you were hoping, as I said, I was on with the Eagles Daily guys yesterday talking about how the hope was that at this point, and Mitch and I even talked about this, 3-1 or 4-0 based off of the schedule, and it's not obviously not falling that way. Now you're hitting the teeth of your schedule, but also things have changed in that perspective too, because you've played poorly, but everyone else on your schedule, minus maybe Notre Dame,
Georgia Tech.
And Georgia Tech, yep,
have played. They nearly lost to Wake Forest. So again, and they won because the refs didn't call an offsides penalty. Do you remember that play when BC played Clemson during the Dennis Grosel year, where Andrew Booth blitzed off the side, and it was basically that happened, and they didn't call the offsides, and in that play, Grosel threw it away or something, or he took a sack, and then Wake Forest did the same thing. They took a sack because they thought it was a free play, but it was not called. So again, football's a weird game,
right? So now you're heading into Pitt. You have Pitt, Clemson, and UConn. Chance to potentially turn things around if you can figure some stuff out. Mitch, what are you expecting, and what's up next?
So first thing about that fumble things, last year BC fumbled 21 times and only lost 9. I think those were the numbers I said. If not, I think I was.
That's right. You said that.
Yep. And so 21 fumbles. There were 24 teams that had at least 21 fumbles. Of those 24 teams, 1, 2, 3, 5. Only 7, I think, lost fewer fumbles than BC did. Like the other team actually recovered the ball. So every other team lost more than 9 fumbles. So this is how fumble luck works. Is the fumbling can be a thing where it's a trend where guys are not taking care of the ball, that was kind of a Thomas Castellanos issue, honestly. But how the ball bounces is a very random thing. But anyways, back to BC. So I think the first thing you have to do is I really think Tim Lewis does need to adjust his scheme. I think you need to call off the dogs a bit because your guys are still just getting torched in man coverage. And even if they're not getting beaten, they're committing penalties and you're giving up explosive plays that way. Maybe you start even just dropping 8 where you're only rushing 3. You maybe have a spy so you can, if the quarterback tries to scramble, you can follow him. They've been decently effective with that kind of thing. I think you got to call off the dogs. So then you can at least guys can rally and tackle to underneath throws. You might be able to force a few more interceptions, get some turnovers like that way. That's one thing because BC is second overall. They're first in the Power 4 in blitz rate. They're first in man coverage, second in man coverage, last in zone coverage. So they're playing this really high wire active defense that they just can't pull off right now. And maybe you get some cornerback help. Guys come back from injuries soon, so maybe that'll allow you to keep going. But that's just tough. I don't think they're going to be able to win that way. Hopefully, you get Davion Crouch back. I think his presence was missed in this game. Other stuff you can do, again, like I think you got to expand the playbook on offense in terms of the passing game. You've got to do some other stuff besides mesh and spot. Spot is the other concept where you have the little hook route from one receiver, one runs to the flat, and one runs the corner route behind the spot, the little hook route. They run that a ton too. And I think teams are keying in on that one as well. So you've got to expand that. Lonergan has to play better. He has to get through his reads. He has to play faster. He has to, again, like I said, play more instinctual, be a little less robotic. I think that the changes on the offensive line are giving some hope where it's like, okay, maybe if they can lean on the run game, they can slow games down a bit, give the defense some more breaks, allow them to recuperate, get some more rest between series. I still hopefully you're going to get Jude Bowery back. So maybe you can move Logan Taylor back to right tackle. I think you probably need to bench Kevin Klein at this point. He's really struggling with giving up pressures. I think PFF officially credited the sack to Alex Broom, and he was at fault, but I think Kevin Klein was at fault as well. He just does not have the foot speed or quickness to survive a tackle, which is something I talked about going into this season. Feel like Robert Smith played pretty well. I'd be fine with keeping him in the lineup at guard instead of Klein. And again, hopefully get Bowery back because he has a very good pass protector. This team is doing very well in pass protection. He had 1 sack, but Lonergan was only pressured on 20% of his dropbacks. That's a great performance. I feel like the receivers are playing well. You had a few drops in this game, which again, you throw the ball a lot. It's going to happen sometimes, but they were mostly pretty good. I think I'm not really sure what else you can say about like the missed tackles and penalties. Like you just need to be more disciplined. Your guys need to really lock in and fix it. And with how bad it's been over the last few weeks, you saw maybe some normalization with the missed tackles in this game. Maybe you'll see some of that with the penalties too. Again, I know I wouldn't bet on it yet until you see it, but that's a really rough thing. I think luckily the special teams issues have kind of abated. I think they might have found something in TJ Green as the kick returner. Seamus Florio had one really bad punt, but otherwise was very good at pinning Cal inside the that was my whole thing about Florio, is that you can't him punting from deep in his own territory. It's not going to go well. He does not have the strongest leg. It's fine, but he's more accurate at pinning the other team inside their own 20, which he was very good at against Cal when he had the opportunity to do so. And then Luke Lombardo has been absolute nails, not feverishly knocking on wood, like for all the bats, but like he has been absolutely awesome. Perfect on all kicks this year. Made all 3 of his 45+ yard field goals. That's fantastic. And kick coverage has seemingly kind of resolved itself. I think they're just kicking more touchbacks, which is fine by me. But yeah, I mean, I think it's again, because like it's the simplest stuff. It's like, don't commit stupid penalties. Don't like be better at tackling. Like, but it's still the hardest, some of the hardest stuff to execute. It's like you just have to go out and do it. There isn't really a turn the dial of missed penalty, like move the slider of missed penalty of penalties and missed tackles down. You just have to go out and do it. And we'll talk about Pitt later this week. I think Pitt is struggling a bit this year as well. They got 2 very easy game start season, but they've lost two in a row now to power conference teams, and they have had issues with turnovers. So I think BC has a shot here, but it's hard for me to pick them because they have to prove to me that they can correct some of these issues and be a better team than they have been last 3 weeks.
All right, let's wrap things up. Mitch, where can people find your work?
You can find me at Mitchell G. Wolfe, WOLFE on Twitter. I'm beginning having an article on Eagle Insider, kind of about these the quote unquote 10 things I hate about Boston College football, if you will, the problems that they've been experiencing over the last few weeks, and kind of which are most important, which are contributing the most to what struggles and which ones can actually be fixed, and what maybe some things of what they can do. So, kind of rehashing this discussion, but going a little more in depth. And then we still have the tape reviews. My tape guy is on vacation, so those are getting a little delayed, but we'll get those out. We'll preview Pitt. Got 7 games in a row now. It's going to be a marathon for the next few weeks in PCs. You really just hope they can get a win soon, because otherwise this is going to be a real slog in the next 2 months.
Yeah, it would be nice to get this win, because next week Clemson is a 7:30 start, so it's a night game. I will have, because I was thinking about it, I saw another site do this, and I'm going to go over the last 5 on Eagle Insider. I'm going to go over the last 5 games against Pitt, because there's been some crazy stuff that's happened the last 5 times PC's played them, between Kari Johnson and, well, last game was kind of mild, but you've had
the Ty Clemens fumble / pick six,
big guy touchdown.
Yeah, pick six.
Steve Adazio getting fired after winning his 6th game to make them bowl eligible. There's also
Bill Dracovic getting his face mask bent in.
Yep.
People forget about that one. Actually, was that in North Carolina? I can't remember which one. I think it was Pitt, because he took some big hits in that game, because they had a good defensive line in 2020. And it's a fun series. And given how the games have gone for BC this year, with all the weird stuff that's happened, maybe it'll finally turn in their favor. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a wild one.
All right, and follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. Check me out on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all those good stuff. Check that out there. And we'll be back again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day. Oh man, I am dragging today. Sorry.
Did you see Arthur Balin's tweet about Parker?